this is Alex Fishbein back again with another Fisch's Friday rant. And if you were wondering, there is no Atlantic Files this week because the Atlantic didn't really do much in the trade deadline and we were on the All-Star break and basketball just resumed yesterday, so there wasn't exactly a lot to talk about. But there will be some interviews kind of hashed out to see who I can get to come on the show for the Atlantic Files in the future. Anyway, we're on Fisch's Friday rant, so we're not talking about the Atlantic Files right now. We're talking about the trade deadline and all the trades that went down. And we're just going to go over some of the trades that happened, some of what I think is going to happen after the trade, so on and so forth. And the first one I want to get to is Stan Van Gundy and the Detroit Pistons. Just they made some great moves this deadline. I think that the Detroit Pistons won this trade deadline this year, and yeah, it was still kind of depressing on how uneventful this trade deadline was. There wasn't really much to talk about. There wasn't the big trade that happened, that went with Dwight Howard or Blake Griffin or somebody of that caliber. Nothing really went down that made everyone go, "Oh my God, they traded who for what?" It was kind of just a lot of smaller trades here and there that, added up to some really good things, especially in Detroit's case. And the first one that Detroit made was not on Thursday, right before the trade deadline. It was made the day before, and that was sending Brandon Jennings and Ilyasova to Orlando for Tobias Harris. Now, Jennings and Ilyasova are both former guys on a Scott Skiles team in Milwaukee, and I'm sure Skiles would love to have them again, or will love to have them again, and they're probably going to play a decent part for the Magic right now, especially when you got a guy like Jennings who has experience, who can come off the bench, kind of teach the guys like Oladipo and Elfrid Payton a lot, really, because, he's one of those guys that skipped out on college, went overseas, and then came to the NBA, had a really good rookie season, an okay second season, and then he's kind of been in and out ever since then. But there is a lot that those guys can learn from him on how, kind of like his career, on how it went, how to do things differently, how to do things sort of what he did, different things like that. And I'm pretty sure bringing in Jennings always seemed like more of a score-first point guard. I'm pretty sure bringing in a guy like that could definitely help a guy like Elfrid Payton, who isn't necessarily looking to score as much and whose jump shot hasn't been that great. So bringing in a more offensive-minded point guard like Brandon Jennings could probably help a guy like Elfrid Payton, learning the ins and outs of what Jennings would do to get in the paint, to drive and kick, to get open for his own shot. So there are a lot of little things that they could definitely learn from him. And just the fact that those guys already have chemistry with Skiles, it seemed like an okay move for Orlando. It was weird, though. They did sign Tobias Harris to the contract extension, and it was funny because he came, he was reaching his potential with guys like Jacques Vaughn, and then Skiles came around, and Tobias Harris just didn't really seem like he fit in the system. And on this situation is definitely good for Tobias Harris, because now he gets to go to an offense in Stan Van Gundy where he values guys like Tobias Harris who can be a stretch four, who can still play a little bit of small forward, and who gives them that flexibility. Especially when you look at Stan Van Gundy's system and how he's pretty much running it in Detroit, how he ran it in Orlando, with that one center in the middle who just did stuff around the rim, got the rebounds, and got all the putbacks and post play and everything, and then surrounded him with shooters and versatile guys. That's pretty much what he's doing in Detroit, as well as what he did in Orlando. And for a guy like Tobias Harris, that is a very promising situation, especially coming from a team with Scott Skiles, who just he didn't really see eye to eye with. And personally, if you've read some of my stuff on Basketball Society, you would know that I'm a big Tobias Harris fan. I think that he can definitely be a big-time player, a big piece in a starting role, whatever you need him in, for a contending team. And what also gave me a little bit of hope for what he's going to do in Detroit, he went on record saying, I'm ready to make the playoffs when he found out he was traded to Detroit. And I think that's awesome. Like, he should definitely have that kind of confidence. He should definitely have that kind of drive. He should want to be there for his team and play a big part in the playoffs. And this Detroit team can definitely do that. They can definitely get to at least an 8th seed and maybe even 7th or 6th, because this team is playing very well, better than a lot of people expected them to play. And now with this trade bringing in Tobias, as well as the other trade they made on the deadline day, where they brought in Monty Eunice and Marcus Thornton, they can definitely do some damage, because you still have the starting the main starters in Reggie Jackson, Caldwell Pope, Marcus Morris, and Andre Drummond. You still have those 4 guys. Now you could potentially put Tobias in at small forward for the starters. You have another stretch 4 in Monty Eunice coming off the bench. You have Marcus Thornton, who can light it up at any point coming off the bench. He averages around 9 shots a game on just 20 minutes per game, so he can definitely come in and get his. And you still have other shooters coming in off the bench as well. So there are a lot of options and a lot of different pieces that add value to this Detroit team that I think they have become a top team to watch on, like, League Pass, whatever you may watch your games on. But I think, like, personally, I'm putting them in my top 5 League Pass, like, watchability ratings, whatever you want to call it. Because honestly, they're young. They were already pretty exciting to watch with the just dynamics of Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond. A guy like Drummond who always like bangs down low on the block and fights for all the rebounds. Personally, I'm a fan of watching the centers and the power forwards, go to work in the post, get dirty on the boards, all of that kind of stuff. Like, I like seeing that kind of play, and Andre Drummond is like that guy to watch if you are a fan of that kind of play. So, and just all the versatile guys they have on the wings that you can kick out for a 3, or they can pump fake for the 3, drive and dish, or they can just drive and get their own in the lane, and a guy like Marcus Morris, who is on the rise as well. There's just a lot of different pieces that are fun to watch in Detroit, and these trades make it even better. So, let's move on to another Orlando trade. They shipped out Channing Frye as they wanted to. They shipped him out to Orlando shipped Channing Frye out to the Cavs, and Anderson Varejao is going to Portland in that deal, and I think Orlando's getting a pick or something out of that. I forget exactly, and it's not showing up on this website. But anyway, Orlando was trying to get rid of Channing Frye. The Cavs get a big help in Channing Frye. No matter if they have him in the starting squad or if they have him on the bench, definitely a great guy to have who can stretch the floor for them. I wouldn't necessarily say this is the piece to push them over the edge and maybe beat Golden State, because Channing Frye really still can't, keep up with anyone on the likes of Golden State except for maybe Bogut and Ezeli. Channing Frye's that guy that'll maybe give you some offense, maybe give you that like Shane Battier kind of offense, the guy that stays in the corner and will get that 3 for you. But Battier still was able to play some defense in Miami whereas Channing Frye was never really known as a big defender. And like I said, facing a team like Golden State, they're going to run right past him. A guy like Draymond Green is going to get what he wants on him, and I don't think that Channing Frye would ever be able to keep up or overpower Draymond Green for that matter. But when they do face a team like San Antonio, Channing Frye might help a lot. Just to say San Antonio made the finals over Golden State. He might be able to help a lot with that because, San Antonio runs that kind of traditional big man play with Duncan at center, Aldridge at power forward. Aldridge can stretch the floor a little bit, but, you could potentially put Channing Frye in at center and have him cover Tim Duncan. Not saying like he's going to cover him well, but it's going to be at least a better matchup for him as far as instead of covering like a faster, more fleet-footed stretch four. So that could potentially help. Either way, it's going to help the Cavs' offense. I don't see it helping their defense much, but it's definitely going to help their offense with a guy who can stretch the floor. Another one of the trades, just because, the Jazz were told that Jeff Teague was off the table, they ended up trading for Shelvin Mack for a second-round pick. Mack and Hayward are reunited. Mack really isn't anything to write home about. He's not going to just become like all of a sudden all-star for Utah. He's definitely going to be a backup. They still have Trey Burke there. Once Dante Exum comes back, I would assume Exum would regain his role as a starting point guard, and Trey Burke would probably move back into that backup role, I would assume, unless Shelvin Mack proves to be at least a little better than Trey Burke. But, I mean, it's a decent move right now for Utah to have that kind of backup guy coming in. And, he already has a little bit of chemistry with Gordon Hayward, so it was okay. It was only for a second-round pick, so it wasn't too big, but, not that much. One big trade, though, is with the Thunder. The Nuggets traded Randy Foye to the Thunder for DJ Augustine, Steve Novak, and 2 second-round picks. And, the Thunder were just giving up some guys that, really haven't been playing much for them anymore. Novak rarely gets in at all. And just a couple second-rounders, but they get a guy in Randy Foye who has been said in Denver to be a big, big presence in the locker room, a guy that everyone liked, a guy that had the leadership capabilities, even though with the Nuggets he wasn't exactly like the number one go-to guy or like the leader. He was still a big veteran presence in the locker room. And Randy Foye can come out and give you some buckets. He's a guy that has a decent shot, and when you put him on a bench squad, especially when you still run with guys like when Durant maybe plays the rest of the first quarter with some of the bench guys, or when Westbrook gets his run with some of the bench guys, you're going to get him more open shots, especially when you have other guys around him who are known to make their shots when, on the drive and kick. He's going to get some more open looks, and that's just only going to turn into more points for the entire team. And I think that this was a great move by the Thunder. It was an alright move for the Nuggets too. They did get a couple second rounders out of it. They probably won't keep Augustine and Novak for much longer, but it still is a decent move for the Nuggets and a great move for the Thunder. I think that Randy Foye will be a pretty decent contributor off the bench, and having him alongside a guy like Cameron Payne, who you're still trying to, grow and kind of like lift him up as he plays through his rookie year and through his younger years, having a guy like Randy Foye next to him and a guy like Randy Foye get closer to him in the locker room, things like that, it's going to help him as well as it does the rest of the team. Now, Brian Roberts was traded in, like one of those 3-team deals with the Miami Heat, I think it was. And with Portland, sorry. So Miami traded Brian Robertson, a second-round pick, to Portland. They ended up waiving Tim Frazier. I don't really know exactly what was happening with that deal. I don't know why. I think it was just to put Miami under the luxury tax. I think that was about it. There wasn't really much going on with that one. And then as the deadline winded down, the Wizards finally made a move, which I was hoping they would because, they needed something to happen. They ended up bringing in Markieff Morris for a protected first-round pick and also DeJuan Blair and Chris Humphries. Blair and Humphries was playing more than Blair for the Wizards. He wasn't anything great, wasn't anything amazing. He came and gave you a little bit off the bench. That was about it. Blair rarely played. But, getting a guy like Markieff Morris is something that the Wizards needed. They needed that stretch four as, the whole league is moving that way. They needed that guy because Nene is just getting up there in age. He's just not really giving the Wizards the production that they want. And when you get a guy like Markieff Morris, a younger guy who we all understand he had his head case moments, but this whole time he was saying he wanted out of Phoenix, and Phoenix was neglecting it, and they're like, no, we're keeping him here. But the whole time he said he wanted out, and everyone knew there was going to be something that would happen out of that. Now he gets his change of scenery that he wants. Phoenix gets a first round pick, albeit a protected one, but they still get the first round pick for it. And Markieff Morris will probably thrive next to a guy like John Wall who can get him open, who can pass him open, and who can knock down the three that they need from their four, who can knock down that mid-range shot now, who can keep up with a lot of the other guys that they're going to have to face in the East. And then you can bring a guy like Nene off the bench for, experience purposes, maybe even closer games kind of down the stretch or something, maybe. I don't know. But I think altogether that this is a great deal for the Wizards, finally bringing in a guy like Markieff Morris to put around John Wall. And, this should only be one of a few more moves that they have to make if they want to become a contender into that tier with Cleveland and all of those guys. And at the end of the trade deadline, the Bulls traded away Kirk Heinrich to the Hawks. It was really just a salary dump, saved the Bulls around $3 million in the tax. The Bulls get Justin Holiday in return. Really wasn't much going on with that, but at the very end, probably the only other quote-unquote splash. The Clippers sent Lance Stevenson to Memphis for Jeff Green, and I think the Grizzlies also got a 2018 first-round pick in the deal. The Clippers need a small forward. They got a small forward now. They have Jeff Green. Is Jeff Green a franchise changer? Not really. Is he a game changer? He can be sometimes here and there. But this is still the Clippers finally addressing a need. And they got rid of Josh Smith earlier. They get rid of Lance Stevenson now. Two guys who are kind of just a distraction and just they didn't need them on the team. It was like, okay, now we got a guy that can really contribute, that can be a small forward that we have needed for a while now. And when you bring Blake Griffin back eventually, they could all potentially mesh very well with a lineup like Chris Paul, JJ Redick, Jeff Green, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. That's a formidable five right there. That is a decent five-man team, five-man rotation right there that could potentially do some damage. Now, do I think that five-man lineup could match up well with the Warriors' death lineup of Curry, Clay, Iguodala, Barnes, Draymond? Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. They did just beat the Spurs last night, but that was before Jeff Green got there, and Blake Griffin hasn't even gotten back yet. But also, the Spurs didn't have Manu or Kawhi Leonard, so there's a lot of still questions there. But I don't know. I think this helps right now in the short term for the Clippers. I still don't see it pushing them to a finals appearance. And I think that is going to end up being like that's what they're aiming for this year. It was pretty much like Western Conference Finals at least, or bust, and now it's just kind of seems like they might explode the team in like a season or a season and a half or two. So it may help right now. I don't see it really translating into a finals appearance or even a Western Conference Finals appearance. That's just me. Anyway, that's it for me, guys. Thank you for watching and listening to another episode of Fisch's Friday Rant. Make sure you check us out on our website at www.basketball-society.com and on Twitter at @bballsociety_. I will be back next week with an Atlantic Files episode and a Fisch's Friday Rant episode. So make sure you be on the lookout for that. Thank you guys for watching again. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.